Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. The U.S. Department of Labor was caught on social media using a slogan that was straight out of 1930s German. The official Department of Labor account posted on the platform formerly known as X the slogan, "One homeland, one people, one heritage, remember who you are, American." It could be easily mistaken for yet more of the pro-American propaganda that the administration is known for, but many online were quick to point out that that was eerily similar to the slogan, "One people, one realm, one leader," used by Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party. Honestly, this doesn't come as a huge surprise to me, at least. I've been looking at a lot of the official government social media accounts and the stuff they've been posting, and a lot of it does seem very Nazi coded, to put it a certain way. It's all very clear propaganda, but it's all propaganda that is evoking a very specific type of propaganda from a very specific time in history. The Department of Homeland Security is probably one of the places that does it the most, possibly because they have the word homeland right in their name. They post a lot of things about encouraging people to fight for the homeland, or encouraging people to join ICE with posts using the phrase, "We will have our homeland again." When I saw that, it did strike me as sort of encouraging them to take back the fatherland, which seemed very 1930s Germany of them. It seems my sense was right on the money because a historian who writes literally about Nazi Germany in the Third Reich said that that is a phrase that came right out of a white nationalist anthem. So sometimes it's not even just that they sound a little white nationalist. If they are literally taking phrases that are evoking white nationalism and seemingly sending a very clear message to say that's the kind of people we want enforcing our borders and immigration. Saying that they want to have their home again implies that they do not have their home now. And who do they feel they have to take it back from? They're not outright saying it's the non-whites and immigrants, but the message seems pretty clear, and it doesn't take much to connect the dots there. Honestly, I'm just glad that someone else is noticing this, because I would see these posts and be like, someone else has to see this. If I'm seeing it, it's got to be obvious that something isn't right here. And they definitely are. Back in August, the Southern Poverty Law Center reviewed a bunch of Homeland Security's social media posts and found that they used, quote, white nationalist and anti-immigration images and slogans in recruitment materials, which I guess makes sense when you consider their idea of border security seems to be to repel the foreign invader, both from without and within. The homeland they seem to want is one that is almost entirely white. Their seeming desire for a white homeland is not only expressed in the words and phrases that they post, but also the images. Homeland Security got into some trouble a few months ago with the descendants of the painter Norman Rockwell over them taking several of his works without permission, of course featuring exclusively white people, and posting them online with slogans like "Protect our American way of life," "Manifest heroism," and a Calvin Coolidge quote that said, "Those who do not want to be partakers of the American spirit ought not to settle in America." The family said in an op-ed in USA Today that they felt that the administration misrepresented the artist and they were using his works, quote, "for the cause of persecution towards immigrant communities and people of color." And yeah, that's exactly how I saw it too. It was very clear that they were trying to send a message that this was their ideal America, one that was devoid of anyone non-white. America would be so much better off if we could just return to those better days. And that's not even getting into a recent post that they made of an image of a placid beach with palm trees and a car on the sand labeled "America After 100 Million Deportations." And they captioned it, "The Peace of a Nation No Longer Besieged by the Third World." Now, considering there's an estimated 15 million undocumented immigrants, it really begs the question, where are the other 85 million coming from? I'd give you 3 guesses to figure it out, but I'm willing to bet you don't need the other 2. And Homeland Security is not the only government department doing this. They've been posting a lot of stuff on social media that if you translated all of the text into German, you would swear it was old 1930s fascist propaganda. In one post, there's an image of what appears to be Colombia in an Art Deco style with her torch held high, with the phrase, "Your homeland is calling," captioned with, "Restore your homeland's greatness. Join the movement to make America skilled again and unleash American industrial, military, and technological dominance." Fire emoji. What almost makes it worse is that the Department of Labor seems to be using an AI generated image in their propaganda posts. So they aren't even hiring real Americans to do their artwork. They're using a computer. I suppose one could argue it's probably an American computer, but that's part of the point. The Department of Labor should be using human labor, American human labor, for their work, not a machine. Another of their posts features a large metallic eagle with its wings spread high, labeled "Restore American Greatness," with the accompanying caption, "Restore American Greatness, build your homeland's future." That big metal eagle looking a lot like ones I've seen on German propaganda posters from the World War II era. The imagery, coupled with the "Restore American Greatness" slogan, invoking a certain time in history, if not also a certain place in that time. And if those were not overt enough, they also have one that has a monochrome image of Donald Trump's eyes and nose glaring out at the audience with the text, "Patriots in control," captioned with, "Patriots are in control. We're never giving up our fight to put America first." Interesting how the people claiming Donald Trump is not an authoritarian and not seeking complete control over the people are putting out imagery that is very evocative of Big Brother right out of George Orwell's 1984, with accompanying text implying he is in control. It really does mystify me, if maybe not surprise me, that the people who are so up in arms about being called Nazis, about being called fascists, the ones who say that by calling us fascists, you're just devaluing the impact of the word and lessening the effect of the real fascists, are the ones distributing and absorbing very obviously fascist-coded imagery and slogan. But at the same time, these are the same people who saw Elon Musk do a very obvious Nazi salute, and they said, "Oh no, he's just throwing his love out to the people. That's not a Nazi salute." When it seemed pretty clear to me that he knew what it was, and he knew that the people who saw that, who wanted it to be a Nazi salute, knew it was a Nazi salute, and that he was speaking to them and saying, "I am with you." If they resent the comparison to white nationalists, maybe they should stop using slogans and imagery that are attractive to the white nationalists, that seem to be speaking directly to them and encouraging them to be a part of their in-group. Now, I won't go as far as to say that any of this is evidence that the current administration is a literal fascist party, but they do seem to make it pretty clear that those types of people are very much welcome in their party. So at the very least, they're fascist adjacent. Not to mention we have people old enough to have lived through literal fascism of the 30s and 40s who are saying that these people and this messaging really remind them of what they went through back in those days. And when the real thing was your lived experience, that's not an accusation you throw around lightly. So it's something to really keep in mind. When we've got a government constantly putting out what amounts to very obvious and not very thinly veiled at all fascist propaganda, it's no shock when those that it is dog whistling to take notice and then act on it. The recent uptick in extreme violence from immigration agents is not surprising when you think about it. They feel emboldened by this messaging and feel that the government has their back and is saying it's okay to do this as long as you're being violent against the right people, which of course in their mind is anyone that doesn't look like them or who is against them. All this violence and fascist iconography really makes it feel like this isn't the America we all know. We were a nation that believed that diversity was a strength, and it was our differences that made this nation better and strengthen us by our diversity. But they would have us believe that that's the opposite, that it's diversity that is a weakness. And that diversity has rotted this nation from the inside, and they have to take it back from those they feel have usurped their nation from them. That to me comes up as a very un-American attitude, and the fact that we have official government accounts pushing a narrative that, while not literally saying that, is certainly hinting at it, is very disturbing. America is not a homeland that needs to be recaptured by the great patriots. It's scary to see what appears to be history repeating itself, and not in a good way. The government pushing these sorts of ideas through their official channels is incredibly inappropriate. And as I stated before, likely to only embolden some of the worst of our country commit terrible acts in the name of reclaiming their homeland. And it seems incredibly hard to believe that they aren't aware exactly of how they're coming off and who they're coming off that way towards. It seems very intentional. There's no real way to argue that it isn't. It feels as if we're dangerously close to the Department of Labor posting an image of a big, strong, white American worker with the text, "Work makes us free." I really don't like the direction all this is going. So all I can really do is to call it out and bring attention to it so that others can see what I'm seeing. Maybe we can all collectively come together and stop things before they get so far that the tragedies and horrors of the past return in a modern age. We have to remember that Nazi Germany didn't start with death camps and Nazi officers. It started with just regular people doing terrible things to their fellow man because they believed it was the only way to return their homeland to the way it used to be before those they feel were inferior to them ruined it. For a long time, people said fascism could never take hold in America, and certainly not at the governmental level. But what we're seeing now is that it absolutely can, and possibly already has. And if we don't keep our eyes open and stop things before they get too bad, we already know where it ends. And that simply cannot be allowed to happen. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time, when I cut you off another slice of news.